Good morning and welcome to worship this morning. Please enjoy our gathering song today, Who You Are to Me. Some people think you're distant, just words upon a page, that you're nothing more than fables handed down along the way. But I've seen you part the waters when no one else can pull me from the deep. That's who you are to me.
Some people think you just the angels made of stone, but I know you live inside that. I know that it's wrong, and I've seen you in a sunset in the eyes of a stranger on the street. That's who you are to me.
You're amazing, faithful, love's open doors. When I'm empty, you fill me with hunger for more of your mercy, your goodness. Lord, you're the air that I breathe. That's who you are to me. Who you are to me. Sometimes I have my doubts, I'm sure that everybody does. And I wonder when I stumble, am I still worthy of your love?
And I know that I get stronger when I'm talking to you down on my knees.
You're everything I need. You're amazing, faithful, love's open door. When I'm empty, you fill me with hunger for more of your mercy, your goodness. Lord, you're the air that I breathe. That's who you are to me. Who you are to me. You're forever holy. You're the Lamb who is worthy. My forgiveness, my healer, the Messiah, my Redeemer. You're amazing, faithful, love's open door. When I'm empty, you fill me with hunger for more of your mercy, your goodness. Lord, you're the air that I breathe. That's who you are. You're great, high, over and all. In your presence, Jesus, I stand in awe of your mercy, your goodness. Lord, you're the air that I breathe. That's who you are to me. 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 That's who you are to me.
Good morning and welcome to First Church. We invite you to stand in body or spirit or whatever posture is appropriate for you to join us in our call to worship. My heart overflows with gratitude to you, O God. You help me to stand firm despite all of the chaos around me.
You continue to show your presence throughout your world. Your love moves through the actions of those who serve you.
We will sing and speak praises to the God who lifts us up and gives us courage each new day.
I will always need your gracious love. You know my inner fears and doubts, and you still have confidence in me.
Let all of us sing in praise to the God who leads us.
Your love so great. Your love so great. Jesus in all things.
invite you to pull our spirits further in to worshiping you and knowing your presence.
Great unknown, our feet may
You call me out upon the waters. The great unknown where feet may fail. There I find you in the mystery. In the ocean's deep, my faith will stand. I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours and you are mine. It's quite a promise to try to keep our eyes above the waves and to know that we are God's and God is ours. And so I invite you into that thought in our place of sanctuary here together. And just to reflect on your week and share with us anything that comes to mind that's been especially great and you want some people to have excitement with you. Maybe something you're struggling with that we can keep you in prayer with regards to whatever it is. Anyone you'd like to share? Yes, Robin.
Yesterday was awesome. And also my daughter got a grant to work on a video that she's been putting together. So it's not a master grant, but it still feels really good.
So your daughter got a grant to work on the video that she's been trying to get for a while, which is great. Congratulations.
And I started with yesterday was awesome, so take that with
Oh, about the retreat? The retreat, which I'm going to talk about later, but please feel free to, anybody who wants to say anything about that retreat yesterday, but also save a little bit for during the sermon because I'm going to be asking a couple things for those of you who did attend. Did I see your hand, Sue? Dave.
Yes, I have a joy and a concern. Our oldest son, Christian, was married a month ago yesterday.
Christian was married a month ago
He's
yesterday.
our oldest of 6, and it was a great small ceremony in Bremont.
And that's the joy.
That is a great joy.
Great joy.
Concern. Our youngest, Corey, graduated from Westchester in December in criminal justice and proceeded to go into the police academy. This academy was slowed down somewhat through the COVID pandemic, and he has now graduated and started a career a couple weeks ago with the police force in Collingwood. So all that we're faced with nowadays, everybody feels differently about different things. I want you to keep our son Corey in your thoughts and prayers in these trying times.
Yes. Wow, and what an act of courage for him.
Well, you're right, because he had a lot of places he could have gone, and he wanted to go somewhere where he thought he could really contribute.
So we want to hold him in that space with all of his courage, also for his protection. Thank you.
And also Dave's mom turned 97.
Yes.
Dave's mom turned 97. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We have a message from Pamela Glover. She says, I wanted to give you an update on my left shoulder replacement. I didn't go to the OR until 3:30 p.m. I came home the following day at 3 o'clock p.m. I'm in excruciating pain. My nurse is picking me up today. The surgery went well with no complications. Please let the congregation know that I appreciated their prayers, and please ask them for continued prayers as I go through recuperation.
And that's Pamela Glover. We've met her quite a number of times, and she's one of our members. Yes. I wonder if we wanted to introduce our visitor, Greg. Just wanted to say how happy we are to have you here, coming all the way across the country just for a service today. We're so happy you did that. Anybody else?
I have a message, and I am sorry, I am not sure who it is from. It says, my grandson Cameron is home for a 10-day leave from the Army. I got to spend a whole day with him after I picked him up from the airport on Friday.
Sounds like Kathy LaRusso?
I think that's Kathy.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Our prayer today.
One more, I'm sorry.
More. Okay, please keep going.
This is from Cheryl. It says, I want to give thanks for the music of First Church and those who bring it to us each week, including her better half. It really helps carry me through the week. Cheryl.
So I had a number of conversations with people who were having some heaviness this week and struggling to feel the closeness of God. So this particular prayer emerged from that. So we'll read the Unison prayer for faithfulness. Gentle guide, wise parent, I acknowledge your presence in every moment of each day. Today I bring the heaviness of my heart to you. I work hard each day, and yet I feel as if I work alone. My heart is empty, my mind is overwhelmed, and my body is aching. I need to rest in your care. Please help me to carry my burdens and give me wisdom for the challenges I face. I need to feel your presence close to me in a way that is real. I trust your faithfulness, O God. Please hold me close to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Good morning. Today's story is from the book of Exodus. When the people realized that Moses was taking forever in coming down off the mountain, they rallied around Aaron and said, "Do something. Make gods for us who will lead us. That Moses, that man who got us out of Egypt, who knows what's happened to him?" So Aaron told them, "Take off the gold rings from the ears of your wives and sons and daughters and bring them to me." They all did it. They removed the gold rings from their ears and brought them to Aaron. He took the gold from their hands and cast it in the form of a calf, shaping it with an engraving tool. The people responded with enthusiasm. "These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up from Egypt." Aaron, taking in the situation, built an altar before the calf. Aaron then announced, "Tomorrow is a feast day to God." Early the next morning, the people got up and offered whole burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. The people sat down to eat and drink and then began to party. It turned into a wild party. God spoke to Moses, "Go, get down there. Your people who you brought up from the land of Egypt have fallen to pieces. In no time at all, they've turned away from the way I commanded them. They made a molten calf and worshipped it. They sacrificed to it and said, 'These are the gods, O Israel, that brought you up from the land of Egypt.'" That's it to the reading.
That is such a powerful song. It's almost hard to move or do anything but just rest in God after hearing that. So we have a slight change in our title this morning, and I have changed it to Survival Skills for Spiritual Warriors because we did in fact have our retreat yesterday, and that was the theme. And I had a suspicion that something about that whole retreat would just shift the direction for today, and that's exactly what happened. So we were gathered in the backyard of the Buchanans, and it was really, for some of us, the first time to be a part of a gathering. We were able to be together in a safe way, and it was so good to be together and to be able to be safe. And so our leaders for the retreat were Reverend David Brown and Sharon Brown, and so you can be sure just hearing that you knew it was going to be interesting, different, fun, intriguing. So at the very beginning of the retreat, David was setting the biblical context, and it happened to be very closely linked to our story for today from Exodus. And he asked us the question of, what did the Hebrew people do after all of the plagues were over and the Pharaoh told them to go? So we need to remember that there were, when you think about these plagues, I don't know how you feel about having lots of flies around you, or lice, or, any one of these alone is probably enough to make me want to get out of Dodge. So we've got locusts, and we've got frogs, and lice, and flies, and blood in the water, and it keeps going on and on. And so it was like no surprise to me that when the Pharaoh finally said, "Get out of here, Moses, with your people," that what they did is they took off and ran towards the city. And I can't imagine they were walking. I would imagine they were really moving pretty quickly. Now, I'm imagining those who didn't swim might have been wondering what was going to happen when they got to the sea, but they're ready to go, and they're running, and they're getting out because they don't want any more of this. And so they get to the sea, and of course we have this parting of the water where the people are able to get through, but the very last image that they have is, when they look back to Egypt, is the image of the waves crashing down on the heads of the Egyptian soldiers, and then the sea. And I would have to guess that as they were standing there, they knew they could never go back to Egypt, and life as they knew it was over. So they had a new life. They had a new God in Yahweh, and they had a new leader in Moses, and everything sounded good on paper. Prime real estate, you hear a little bit about the promised land, milk and honey. It sounds like a good plan, especially because they know they can't go back. But in a few days, they begin to find that the food isn't working out. They have it, but they're not sure they have enough, and some people try to hoard it, and then it goes bad, and they're worried about food, if they're going to have food, and then they don't seem to have water, and that's a problem. And so they're worried, and they're scared. And then, of course, the directions weren't great, and nobody had a GPS, so they're wandering around, and they're following Moses, but they're not sure, and they're just tired, and they're not sure where they're going, and they're not sure if they can trust God or their leader. And just at the point where they are so tired and so frustrated and agitated with each other, and they're at their most vulnerable state, God seems to be nowhere to be found, and Moses decides to take a trip out of town. He decides to climb a mountain, and no one knows when he's coming back. So the people are angry, they're frustrated, and all they want is to feel connected to God and to each other. So Aaron has this brilliant idea that he is going to have them melt down all the jewelry and make something for them to worship as a distraction and something to do. Good idea to do something to distract, but bad choice. And sometimes people make the wrong choices in times of fear and anxiety, but it's not the end of the story. Eventually, they learn how to turn their mistakes into survival skills, and that's chapters to come. So just to flash back to our retreat yesterday, we were asked to remember our experience with the pandemic, and I'm going to have 2 points where I'm going to ask for your feedback during the sermon, that is. So if those of you who would be willing to share something, please do. So yesterday we were asked to remember at the very beginning when we were told to go home, we were told to stay put, kind of the beginning of the pandemic, and we were asked to think about things that we... Thank you. This does happen to me every week. So at any rate, what were some of the things that we were not able to do during the pandemic? And just to give a few examples, like one person said they were not able to leave their home. They were literally confined, couldn't leave their home, couldn't leave their property. What were some of the things that you could not do during the pandemic? This is where you respond. I can keep talking. Couldn't fly on an airplane. Couldn't go out. Sis? Couldn't come to church, right. So? Couldn't get my haircut. Couldn't get your haircut. Taylor?
Couldn't go to a theater, live or movie.
Right, couldn't go to a theater, live or movies. I know some people. No concerts. Not Rob. We know all about you and your concerts, so you couldn't go. Oh no. A number of people talked about having someone in their family die, and they could not, either they couldn't get to them at all, or the funeral was just, it was, depending on the state that people were in, as far as across the country, either couldn't have a funeral, had a limited funeral, not able to visit loved ones. Really, that was a super hard one for a lot of people. Some people mentioned physical contact, that they really have not been able to have physical contact and how much they miss that. Some people could not go to work or work at all, could not pay their bills, not go to a pharmacy or a doctor. Anybody else have anything that comes to mind that, Barb? Schools were closed, of course, yeah. Could not go to school. So after we identified some of these things that we could not do, there was some emotion there. Some people expressed these things with sadness, some with anger, anxiety, fear, just different emotions that we experienced as we were not able to do different things over the last 6 months. And one of the things that someone said is that life as they knew it was over. And it was going to be a new normal, but nothing felt normal. Some people even felt as if God had abandoned them. So right towards the end, in the middle of when we were expressing all of this, David and Sharon asked us to do this exercise. So we had just finished talking about the knots, N-O-T-S, and they led us in this exercise, actually wearing the bracelet that we made, where we were supposed to, we each got a very long string or rope, and we were supposed to take that and make this macrame bracelet. And let me tell you what, I'm not good at this, but I didn't know how bad I was at this. Because we were all sitting there together, and it seemed like such a really basic thing to just cross a piece of rope over and under, and we were so twisted up, we were so confused and frustrated and agitated because we're trying to figure out what to do. And on top of that, in the middle of this, Sharon and David, who were supposed to know what they were doing, suddenly said to us, Sharon said, you know what? I'm having like a brain freeze. I can't even remember how to do it either. And then David goes off and he says, I just want everyone to know that whatever I'm telling you isn't right either. And that reminded me a little bit of like the God-Moses thing, like somebody's out of town, another one is there, but they're not helpful. And it was just such a funny thing. And so they went on YouTube and they figured out how to do it. And they showed us. And then we started to little by little work with each other. And eventually, we found that we were making knots and eventually making a bracelet. But what I found to be so interesting is that I thought about the metaphor of how we were taking a rope and we were making a cross. And I thought about the importance of acknowledging how much we want to connect with God and needed to connect with each other. And that's what we were doing. Some of us were just, including myself, were not able to make this thing alone. And even when we finished, nobody's looked like anybody else's, even though we were doing the exact same thing. Some were twisted and some were crooked and somebody, I don't know, mine certainly is far from perfect, but it looks really good from afar. Kind of is like how I think sometimes we are, right? We might look well put together from afar, but then we know we have things that, mistakes we've made or things that we hope nobody sees if they don't get up too close. And so eventually we all made this bracelet, and what we talked about at the end was all of the knots that we had, but how the knots in our bracelet were what gave strength. Each knot that we made, each time we made the shape of the cross, and then made that knot, it became something really strong and wonderful and memorable. And it occurred to me, even touching the knots, which could represent the things that have been tense or sad or hard, touching them seemed to be empowering. And we started to talk, we didn't really finish, but we started to talk about what were some of the survival skills that we have learned over the past 6 months. And this is where I'm going to be asking you again, if you would maybe say something about what is a survival skill that you've learned over the last 6 months, or what is something that you have found to be helpful during a time of challenge and global pandemic and questioning and wondering and uncertainty. What are a couple of skills that you have learned? Kareen.
I learned
New technology. I know, and just to say, I was teaching my substitute yoga teacher how to get online today, and so Kareen came in the door, and she, who says she's not a techie, showed the person how to get online to access our service. So you're now a teacher. We can all go to Kareen to get information and guidance about tech information. Thank you. Anybody else? A survival skill? Pete?
Not necessarily a new skill, but it reinforced for me the notion of just hang in there. Things are going to be okay. Just hang in there.
Hang in there, right? And we'll get there. Right. Janice?
I rediscovered I like to craft.
You like to craft?
And I feel like
Why weren't you there yesterday when we needed you? Gosh, that would have been such a help. Yes, Robin.
humans have gone through things, awful things before, but that it's okay to need to run to the closet and cry or be frustrated, come back out and realize, we can do this.
Yeah, humans have gone through really difficult things before. It's okay to run into the closet and cry and express ourselves, but it's important to come back out again. Did I get that? Okay. Yes, Greg.
Virtual communication.
Virtual communication. Yeah. I think most of us have found that to be important in communicating with each other over the last 6 months. Taylor, you said something yesterday, it was about the one step. Can you say that again?
I was talking about how that might not be a good idea.
I was talking about how, as many of you know, my plans to hike the Appalachian Trail, which you all gave a wonderful service for and planned for with me, were quickly scuttled as soon as the pandemic happened. But what I did in preparation for that hike is I read a book called Appalachian Trials, which is about preparing yourself psychologically for a long hike. There was nothing in there about survival skills in the traditional, literal sense. There was nothing about gear or training. It was assumed you would read that somewhere else. But the book was about training yourself psychologically. And what I really resonated with and realized I could carry with me into a different life situation was don't think too far ahead. You know, embrace the trip. Find the ways that if you're in a situation that you can't do anything about, find the ways that you can learn and grow. And don't worry about the end of the trail because it's way too far away. Focus on the next mile, the next day, the next rest stop, and trust that the rest will work itself out. And be okay with uncertainty because that's the world we live in, and you have to sort of accept uncertainty, which is very hard for me, maybe hard for you too, but I think it's important one time.
Thank you. Sabangale.
For me, I found prayers that were specifically designed for the pandemic. Instead of me struggling to form words or talking to God, but those prayers that I could pull online and found that they were very specific, that helped me to really continue to add to what I wanted to say to God.
Thank you. Prayers that were really specifically related to the pandemic. Mary.
Yes, realizing that you don't need a lot of things that are out there that are material, just like connecting with nature, reconnecting with cooking, instead of going out to eat, reconnecting with people who are right around me.
Thank you. Reconnecting with nature, that was one of the few things we really could do, right? Was to step outside. Miriam.
Reconnecting with people that don't necessarily have technical skills. There are many elderly people that don't have a clue, and but they need to hear a voice. So just calling people was very gratifying.
And it seems like people did make more calls to each other. I know somebody else said yesterday that their family got together on Zoom. They hadn't done that before, but they started to do that regularly, and there were people they hadn't seen regularly in their lives, but suddenly this was a new way to gather, a new platform. Svangale?
I was going to say that there are meetings that I could have gone to that were out of state, and I might not have felt like going there personally, but virtually I was able to connect with those people out of state and just still feel comfortable attending those meetings. And also reconnecting with people like we had a welcome for the district superintendent virtually. So it would have been difficult to actually see her if I was waiting for months and months for her to start visiting us. So now with Zoom, I already know who she is, I already know how she looks like. So, there were so many benefits to what's happening right now in terms of us reconnecting. Somebody used that word, reconnect.
Thank you. Mike.
Cutting off the information and disinformation overload.
Okay, I didn't catch all of that.
Cutting off the information and disinformation overload.
Cutting off the information and misinformation overload is a survival skill.
The bring on something like, oh, maybe I'll learn a foreign language.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very good.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So,
I went back to something that I did when the Y was open, and I went back to the pool, and I do exercises at the pool, but while I'm doing them, it gives me a chance to talk to God if I'm there by myself. And it was an opportunity to get out of the apartment. And we were so inclined to.
yeah. So my hope in this, I don't mean to leave anybody out back here, my hope in having us vocalize this is that we will get ideas from each other and also know that we can be there for each other and find new ways. That's how we thrive. That's how we rise up again, even when we feel pushed down or when we feel that we're in some way immobilized. This is how we rise up and empower each other. So today it is really an opportunity to gain hope from each other and to remember that God is always with us, even when it doesn't feel like it, that God is always with us. Amen.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Lorianne, for that wonderful time. We have a lot of announcements today, so listen up, there will be a quiz. First up, we will be resuming our virtual coffee hour. We're going to do it 2 more times. We're going to do it today, and then we're going to do it 2 weeks from now, and that'll probably be the end of our virtual coffee hour. So if you're watching online, feel free to join us, although there should be a link available to do that over Zoom. The clothes closet has had a higher level of demand lately, and so consequently, they have a higher need for donations. So you can donate clothes to the clothes closet 7 days a week from 12 to 2, which is the same time you can donate food to the food bank. They're especially in need of children's and men's clothes, but they'll take anything you give them, as long as it's, not falling apart and in decent shape. So please donate clothes to the clothing closet. You're also welcome to volunteer with the clothing closet. That's also something that's in need. You can contact the office about that. Or volunteering with the garden as well. You can use volunteers to contact the office about that. Let's see, my next announcement. I am so excited to announce that our podcast first episode is up. You can listen to it anywhere on podcasts. Most podcast places. So we're on Google Podcasts, we are on Spotify. It will be on our website very shortly if it isn't already. It's on our Facebook page. Lots of places. So I ask you, number 1, to listen, and number 2, to share it on your social media page. If you have one, you can just share the link via Facebook. If you Instagram, it's a little more tricky, but you can share the Instagram picture. We'll have a link in the bio. If that meant nothing to you, don't worry about it. But we really want to spread the knowledge and the podcast that we're working on. We've already got one in the bank that will be uploaded soon, and another one in the works. So 3 full episodes to be listened to soon. And the first one is already up. Share the podcast. And Janeth just threw a link for all you online people to listen to and share as well. I also have an announcement that I will pass over to Andy that we're very excited about.
All right. So as if you've been coming to the church for a few years, you know that the music and worship program has really grown over the last few years, and we have plans for continued growth and development over the next few years. So we've identified that there has been a need for someone to kind of be central and lead the technology aspect of the services, because between the screens and the music and the microphones, there's a lot of stuff that goes on to make these services happen week in and week out. So we have been able to get a position approved by the SPRC, and we have interviewed, and we actually have hired Ayanda as our new technology coordinator of the church. For those of you who don't know Ayanda, she has been heavily involved in what she's doing right now for many years, even before I came here 3 years ago. So She is a very crucial aspect of making this happen, and she's going to lead the technology aspect of this church into the future fearlessly. So if you have any interest at all in helping out with the tech side of things, becoming a member of the tech team, please see Ayanda. You can email her, you can just come up to her, whatever you need to do, but she is a point person for that, and we're super excited to have her here. So welcome to Ayanda. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We won't make her make a speech, even though I know she's dying to. We have another very important announcement, is that today is Pastor Appreciation Sunday. Yes, so if you brought something as a token of appreciation for Lori Ann, there is a basket in the narthex, if you hadn't already figured that out. You can put it in there. I also have lots of people who wanted to share things who couldn't make it today, so I'm going to read what they said. All right, this is from Bill. I feel blessed to have such a wonderful pastor and church family supporting Georgie and me through this difficult times. On Pastor Appreciation Sunday, I want to express special thanks to Pastor Lori for her tireless work over the years. She has been with us to build our church into the wonderful spiritual and material resource it is for our congregation and our community. Thank you, Pastor Lori Ann. I'm going to pull up the other ones from my email really quick. This is from Pamela. Pastor Lori Ann, I love coming to your church. Your congregation is so full of love, and it comes naturally to them because you are so loving yourself. You practice what you preach each Sunday. I enjoy every Sunday I can attend. You are so special to each of us. God bless you on this special day. From Betty Warfield. Dear Lori Ann, when we have a problem, you are always there to fix it. We are so thankful for your loving care. Thank you for all you do for us. Molly Dang, someone as well. Lori Ann, thank you for being the calm in our storm and the peaceful strength that binds this beautiful church together. We are so blessed to have you as our pastor and our friend. We love you. And Mary Spires made this right here as a sort of a collection of words from last year's Pastor Appreciation Day, all the words that they associate with you. So there it is right there that Mary made for you. Mary also sent me something, I think. Is it my email? Text, okay, thank you. Lori Ann embodies service to others, not only in the caring and loving ways that she serves the members of this church, but in all the other ways that we typically don't see. She is there when someone comes to the church needing help. When she sees a need, she goes the extra mile and takes things on with tenacity to do her best to make sure it happens. Thank you for being this example for us. And that's from Mary. I will now invite up for anyone else who wants to share any words of appreciation for our pastor. We might be here for a while, but that's okay. Yes, Peter.
I think Mary is the nail on the head. Pastor Lori, literally and figuratively walks the walk. She's very proud of
Bangale.
Pastor Lorraine, it feels like it was just yesterday when you came here. When we were in a very bad situation that we all know in this church. So we didn't
always been upbeat and that I could do it. And that is, I appreciate that so much. So thank you for being here, and I hope you're here for a long, long time.
I would just like to say that I've had a lot of employers, and it's really nice to have one that I'm not afraid of, that wants my best interests that for me, that is collaborative and works together and listens and gives me great ideas. And I haven't had a lot of employers like that, so it's been a real blessing and breath of fresh air to have you as an employer and as a pastor as well. I get double dip. Do we have any other announcements? We're still on announcements, believe it or not. Yes.
I didn't know we were doing this today, so I don't have anything officially prepared, but just, I think I just want to really thank you deeply for growing me, growing with me. I mean, from the very first minute I came, the very first meeting, there were things that you'd never done before, things that I had never done before, and we did them. I mean, even just saying, first, right off, we want to become a reconciling congregation. Well, I had not had any other church ever ask that, especially not my first time I ever met them. And we went through the process, and we did that. And then the next, in fact, the second thing out of anybody's mouth was we want to do something with the fellowship hall. We want to apply for a loan, which of course, that was a whole thing that I hadn't ever had anybody think like that about how to resource their building. And next thing you know, even after we failed so many times, we eventually got the loan, and we found CJ, and every single thing that we have done really many times, we weren't really sure how to do it, we weren't sure what to do, and yet somehow or other we put the heads of people and minds of people together and kind of rose to the top of who we could be. And of course we have had conflicts and we've had differences, but this is a place where somehow we have differences and we still work together, and that, to Taylor's point, is so different for me to experience. And I am not a person who likes drama or conflict or stirring up anything, so I'm not going to be that, but I am going to work through something to the very, very, very best that I can. So, I thank you all for being the fabric that is shaping me and making me as a strong woman of faith. So anyway, I didn't know this was happening today, but I'm glad it has, and thank you for all of your expression.
On that note, please, we invite you to join us in our final song today. So please stand if you are able. Join us in body and spirit as we sing, "You're Worthy of My Praise."